Commander Elena Vasquez stared at the holographic display floating above her desk. Red dots marked enemy ship movements across 3 different star systems. Each dot represented a massive warship that could destroy entire cities with a single blast. The red dots were getting closer to human space every day. Elena rubbed her tired eyes and took another sip of coffee. She had been studying these reports for weeks now. The patterns were clear to anyone who knew how to look. The 3 great empires that ruled the galaxy were preparing for war. Not war against each other, as they had done countless times before. This time, they were preparing for war against humanity. The door to her office opened with a soft hiss. Captain Rodriguez walked in, carrying a datapad and wearing the same worried expression Elena had seen on everyone's faces lately. He was a good officer, but like most humans in the military, he looked tired and overwhelmed. More bad news? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. The Zethkari hegemony just moved another battle group to the edge of our territory, Rodriguez said. He set the datapad on her desk. That makes 43 of their crystal ships positioned within striking distance of New Geneva. Elena looked at the new information. The Zethkari were strange beings made of living crystal. Their ships looked like enormous gems floating through space. Each ship was bigger than most human cities and armed with weapons that could turn planets into glass. The Zethkari had ruled their part of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. What about the other empires? Elena asked. The Vorthic Collective has been moving too. Their bioships are massing near our mining colonies in the Kepler sector. And the Luxarians. Rodriguez paused. The Luxarians are the strangest of all. Their energy beings just appeared near our trade routes. No ships, no warning. They just showed up. Elena nodded. She knew about the Luxarians. They were beings of pure energy who could travel through space without ships. When they wanted to fight, they would create massive energy constructs that looked like burning stars. They had been around even longer than the Zethkari. The 3 empires had controlled the galaxy for so long that most people could not remember a time when they did not rule. They divided space between themselves and fought occasionally over border worlds. Smaller species like humanity existed only because the empires allowed it. Humans were useful for mining operations and basic engineering work. They were good at fixing things and following orders. Nothing more, at least. That was what the empires thought. Have you heard from Earth Command? Rodriguez asked. They sent the usual message. Keep monitoring. Stay calm. Do not provoke anyone. Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. As if we could provoke anyone, even if we wanted to. This was the reality of human existence in the galaxy. Earth had 47 colony worlds scattered across space. Each world had some mines, farms, or factories that provided raw materials to the empires. In return, the empires allowed humans to exist and sometimes shared basic technology that was already thousands of years old. Humans have been part of galactic civilization for 200 years now. In that time, they had never fought a major war. They had never discovered any revolutionary technology. They had never done anything that made the Empire see them as more than useful servants. The Galactic Council, where important decisions were made, had a human representative. But everyone knew the human voice meant nothing when real power was discussed. Elena's computer beeped with an incoming message. The symbol on the screen showed it came from the Zethkari hegemony. She opened it and read quickly. Her face went pale. What is it? Rodriguez asked. Official notice from the hegemony. They say humanity has failed to meet tribute obligations for the past 6 months. They are giving us 30 days to pay double the normal amount or face administrative reorganization. Rodriguez sat down heavily in a chair. Administrative reorganization was empire language for conquest and slavery. It had happened to dozens of species over the centuries. The empires would claim some violation of treaties, then move in with their fleets. Within days, the target species would find themselves under direct empire control. How much do we owe them? Rodriguez asked. Elena checked the numbers. According to this, we owe them 17,000 tons of rare metals and 50,000 units of processed chemicals. The problem is, we already paid that 3 months ago, Rodriguez finished. I remember the shipments leaving. This was how the empires worked when they wanted to take over someone. They would create impossible demands or claim that payments had not been received. The target species would try to negotiate or prove they had already paid. While they wasted time arguing, empire fleets would move into position. Elena stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of the human colony on Titan Base. Thousands of people lived here, working in the mines and factories. They had families and children and dreams of maybe one day owning their own small farms. They had no idea that 3 ancient empires were about to divide their worlds among themselves, like pieces of cake. Send a message to Earth Command, Elena said. Tell them we need to activate the emergency protocols. Do you think Earth will fight? Rodriguez asked. Our ships are good for cargo hauling and system defense. But against empire fleets, Elena thought about the human ships she had seen. They were solid and reliable, like everything humans built. But they were small compared to empire vessels. A single Zethkari crystal ship carried more firepower than the entire human defense fleet. The empire vessels were not just bigger. They were built with technology that humans barely understood. I do not know what Earth will do, Elena said finally. But I know what the empires think will happen. They think we will surrender without firing a shot. They think we will accept whatever deal they offer us, just like we have done for 200 years. She turned back to Rodriguez. Maybe they are right. Maybe we are just a small species that exists only because bigger, stronger powers allow it. But maybe... Elena did not finish the sentence. There were rumors, whispers that some people claimed to have heard. Stories about secret projects and hidden research. Most people dismissed these stories as wishful thinking. After all, if humanity had any secret weapons or advanced technology, surely they would have used it by now. Send the message, Elena said again. And then we wait to see what Earth has to say. Outside the window, the stars looked the same as always, peaceful and distant. But Elena knew that behind that peaceful appearance, the greatest military forces in galactic history were moving into position. Soon, humanity would learn what it meant to face the full power of 3 empires. The only question was whether humanity would face that power as servants, or as something else entirely. Dr. Sarah Chung floated in zero gravity as she moved through the massive tunnel that ran through the heart of the construction site. The tunnel was so wide that a city bus could have driven through it with room to spare. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the metal walls that stretched away into darkness in both directions. Sarah had been working on Project Prometheus for 15 years. But the sheer size of what they were building still amazed her. She pushed off from a handrail and glided toward the control center where Admiral Marcus Torres was waiting for her. Torres was new to the project. He had been brought in only last month when Earth Command decided they needed military leadership for what was about to happen. Dr. Chun, Torres said as she entered the control room. Thank you for coming so quickly. Through the massive windows of the control room, Sarah could see the construction base. Thousands of workers in spacesuits moved like tiny ants across the surface of something that looked like a small moon. Except this moon was made of metal and composite materials. And it was not finished yet. How long until Europa is ready? Torres asked. Sarah checked her tablet. Another 3 weeks for the main systems. The quantum cores are already online. The weapon systems are being installed now. The artificial ecosystem should be stable within days. Torres nodded, but Sarah could see worry in his eyes. She knew why. The reports from the border colonies were getting worse every day. The empires were not just moving ships into position anymore. They were beginning to make demands that no one could meet. "Admiral, have you been fully briefed on what these ships can do?" Sarah asked. "I have read the reports, but sometimes I have trouble believing them." Sarah smiled. She had trouble believing them too, and she had helped design the systems. "Would you like me to explain it again?" Torres looked out at the construction bay where the Europa was nearing completion. The ship was roughly spherical, like a planet, but covered in docking bays and weapon ports that made it look like some kind of massive sea creature. "How big is this one?" "Europa is the smallest of the 7 ships. She is about the size of Earth's moon. Her diameter is 3,400 kilometers. She can support a crew of 8 million people for 50 years without resupply." Torres was quiet for a moment. "And the largest ship?" "America's. She is the size of Mars, diameter of 6,700 kilometers. She is our flagship and can support 25 million crew members." "How is any of this possible?" Torres asked. 40 years ago, humans barely had fusion power. We were using chemical rockets to move between planets. Now you tell me we have 7 ships the size of worlds?" Sarah had heard this question many times. It was the same question she had asked herself when she first learned about the quantum breakthrough that made everything possible. "It started with Dr. Kim's work on quantum matter manipulation," she said. "In 2157, his team discovered how to create matter directly from energy using quantum field manipulation. Not just any matter. They could create any element they wanted, in any amount, as long as they had enough energy. And the energy comes from? Zero-point field extraction. The empty space around us is not really empty. It is full of quantum energy that appears and disappears constantly. We learned how to tap into that energy and use it." Torres shook his head. "Why did we keep this secret? With this technology, we could have revolutionized the galaxy. We could have helped every species. Because the empires would have taken it from us," Sarah said. "Think about it. If the Zethkari learned that humans had unlimited energy and matter creation, what would they have done?" Torres understood immediately. They would have conquered us and used the technology for themselves. Exactly. So Earth Command made a decision. We would appear weak while secretly becoming strong. We would pay tribute to the empires and act like grateful servants. Meanwhile, we would build a fleet that could protect not just humanity, but everyone. Sarah led Torres to another window that showed a different view of the construction site. Here they could see massive fabrication units that looked like moving mountains. These machines were using quantum matter manipulation to create whole sections that were kilometers thick. The metal being created was stronger than anything that existed naturally. "How many people know about this project?" Torres asked. "About 50,000 people work on the construction directly. Maybe another 100,000 are involved in support operations. But they think they are building mining equipment or space stations. Only about 5,000 people know what we are really building. And how did we hide the construction sites?" Sarah pressed a button on the control panel. The view outside changed as sensors activated. Suddenly, the massive construction bay disappeared. Where the Europa had been floating moments before, there was now only empty space and a few asteroids. "Quantum cloaking fields," Sarah explained. "Anyone scanning this area would see nothing but empty space and natural asteroids. We found 7 uninhabited star systems in empty areas of space. We hollowed out the asteroids and small planets and turned them into secret construction facilities." Torres was impressed despite himself. "How long have the ships been ready?" 3 of them have been ready for over 2 years. Americas, Asia, and Africa. We have been using them for training exercises while we finish the others. The crews have been practicing coordination and battle tactics. The crews come from where? Volunteers from all the human worlds. But they think they are training for deep space exploration missions. Most of them still do not know they are serving on warships. Torres looked at the data on Sarah's tablet. The specifications were incredible. Each ship had shields that could absorb the energy of entire star systems. Their weapons could crack continents from thousands of light years away. They could move faster than anything else in the galaxy and appear anywhere without warning. Doctor, I have to ask, why planet-sized ships? Why not build more normal-sized vessels? Sarah had been waiting for this question, because we learned something important from studying Empire tactics over the past 200 years. The Empires fight using overwhelming numbers. A single Empire fleet might have 5,000 ships. If we build normal-sized vessels, we would need to build 50,000 ships to match their firepower. That would be impossible to hide. She pointed to the Europa. One planet ship has more firepower than 10,000 Empire vessels. We only needed to build 7 ships to have total superiority over all 3 empires combined. And if they discover us before we are ready, then we launch immediately with whatever ships are complete. 3 planet ships should be enough to handle any Empire fleet. But 7 ships would allow us to liberate the entire galaxy at once. Torres walked to a communications station and activated a secure channel to Earth Command. This is Admiral Torres reporting from Prometheus Base. I have completed my inspection of the project. I recommend immediate activation of all units. Sarah heard the response from Earth Command, even though it was meant for Torres alone. Confirmed, Admiral. Empire fleets are moving into attack positions around all human colonies. You are authorized to begin final phase operations. Torres turned to Sarah. How quickly can we get all 7 ships ready for combat? The quantum cores just need final synchronization. Give me 72 hours. You have 48 hours, Torres said. After that, the Empires will start their attack whether we are ready or not. Sarah nodded and activated the ship-wide communication system. Throughout the construction facility, alerts began sounding. Workers who had spent years building what they thought were exploration vessels suddenly received new orders. The training exercises were over. The testing was finished. It was time for the galaxy to learn what humanity had been building in secret. Begin final preparations, Sarah announced to the construction teams. This is not a drill. In 48 hours, Project Prometheus goes active. As she spoke, similar announcements were being made at 6 other secret locations scattered across empty space. 7 planet-sized battleships were preparing to reveal themselves to a galaxy that had no idea they existed. The Empires thought they were about to conquer a weak species that had never fought a real war. They were about to discover that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 40 years, and they had been preparing very well. The attack on New Geneva began at exactly 0800 hours Galactic Standard Time. General Kethver of the Zethkari, Gemini, watched from the bridge of his crystal flagship as 43 warships dropped out of hyperspace around the human colony world. Each ship was a masterpiece of crystal technology, glowing with inner light and bristling with weapons that could glass entire continents. The human colony looked pathetic from space. A few orbital stations, some small defense platforms, and maybe 10 tiny patrol vessels. Kethver had conquered hundreds of worlds over his long career. This would be one of the easiest. Begin the demonstration attack, he ordered his weapons officer. Destroy one of their cities. Let them know we are serious. The crystal ships aligned their main guns toward the planet's surface. These weapons could crack tectonic plates and turn mountains into vapor. But as they prepared to fire, something strange happened on the sensors. General, his sensor officer said, I am detecting movement from the moon. Kethver looked at the displays. The moon was just a barren rock, useful only for mining operations. But the sensors were showing energy readings coming from its surface. Pirates hiding on the moon, probably. Destroy it after we finish with the planet. But the energy readings were growing stronger. Much stronger. And the moon was beginning to change shape. On the surface of New Geneva, colonist Maria Santos watched the sky through the windows of the emergency shelter. She could see the crystal ships hanging in space like deadly jewels. Everyone around her was praying or crying or holding their children tight. The Zethkari were known for their brutal conquests, but Maria was watching something else. The moon in the sky was doing something impossible. Parts of it were opening up like enormous flowers. What she had always thought was a natural satellite was revealing itself to be something artificial. Something huge. The USS Eurasia had been disguised as New Geneva's moon for 37 years. During that time, millions of colonists had looked up at it every night, never knowing they were protected by one of the most powerful warships ever built. Now, as Empire forces threatened the colony, the ship finally revealed its true nature. Massive hangar bays opened along the ship's equator. Gunports, the size of city blocks, emerged from what had appeared to be crater walls. Sensor arrays that could track individual particles across star systems, unfolded from mountain ranges that had never been mountains at all. General Kethver watched in growing horror as the moon revealed itself to be a warship larger than anything he had ever seen. His crystal ships were each the size of large cities. This thing was the size of a world. All ships, attack the artificial moon immediately, he ordered. Full power, all weapons. 43 Zethkari warships turned their guns on the Eurasia and fired everything they had. Beams of crystallized light and particle streams powerful enough to cut through asteroids struck the planet ship's hull. For a moment, the entire area of space lit up like a small star as incredible energies were released. When the light faded, the Eurasia was completely undamaged. Impossible, Kethver whispered. No shield system could absorb that much energy. But Kethver was thinking in terms of normal shield technology. The Eurasia's shields were based on quantum field manipulation. They could absorb the energy of entire suns and redirect it harmlessly into space. The combined firepower of 43 crystal ships was impressive, but it was nowhere near enough to even stress the ship's defensive systems. Captain Lisa Jang stood on the Eurasia's bridge and watched the Empire attack with mild interest. She had been the ship's commander for 8 years. But this was the first time she had been allowed to reveal the ship's true nature. Communications, she said to her officer. Open a channel to the Zethkari fleet. Channel open. Captain, attention Zethkari vessels. This is Captain Jang of the United Earthship Eurasia. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. This is your only warning. The response came quickly from the Zethkari flagship. It was General Kethver's voice, and he sounded angry. Human ship, you cannot threaten the hegemony. We have 43 warships. You have one. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Captain Jang sighed. Weapons officer, target the lead crystal ship. Single shot, minimum power. Target locked. Captain, firing. What the Eurasia considered minimum power was still more energy than most species had ever seen concentrated in one place. A beam of pure quantum energy lanced out from the planet ship's main gun and struck the Zethkari flagship. The crystal ship simply ceased to exist. It did not explode or break apart. The quantum beam converted every atom of the ship into harmless energy and scattered it across space. Where General Kethver's massive flagship had been moments before, there was now only empty space and a fading glow. The remaining Zethkari ships tried to retreat, but they had waited too long. The Eurasia's weapons tracked them as they fled. One by one, the crystal ships disappeared in flashes of light. Within minutes, the entire attack fleet was gone. On the planet below, Maria Santos and her fellow colonists watched through the shelter windows as their moon revealed itself to be their guardian. The ship that had protected them in secret for decades was now protecting them openly. But New Geneva was not the only human world under attack that they dot in the Kepler sector. The biomechanical ships of the Vorthic Collective were learning the same lesson. What they thought was an asteroid belt around the mining colony of Kepler Prime suddenly unfolded into the USS Africa. The bioships tried to use their living weapons to adapt to the planet ship's attacks, but quantum energy could not be adapted to or evolved against. It simply destroyed whatever it touched. Meanwhile, near the trade routes of the Outer Rim, the energy beings of the Luxarian Dominion discovered that the gas giant they had been using as a hiding spot was actually the USS Australia. The Luxarians created massive energy constructs to fight the planet ship, but their starfire weapons could not penetrate quantum shields designed to absorb the energy of supernovas. Admiral Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the USS Americas, the largest of the 7 planet ships. Through quantum communication links, he was watching reports come in from all 3 simultaneous battles. Each empire had attacked human colonies at the same time, thinking they would achieve quick victories. Instead, they were discovering that humanity had been far from defenseless. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we are receiving signals from all 3 empire command centers. They are requesting immediate communication with Earth Command." Torres smiled. For 40 years, the empires had treated humanity like servants who existed only to provide raw materials and cheap labor. They had never bothered to learn human history or study human psychology. If they had, they might have learned that humans did not like being threatened. "Open a general broadcast channel," Torres ordered. "All frequencies, all languages, all empire territories." "Channel open, sir." Torres looked into the camera that would carry his image across the galaxy. Behind him, the massive bridge of the Americas stretched away like the command center of a small city. Thousands of crew members worked at stations that controlled weapons capable of destroying solar systems. "People of the galaxy," Torres began. "This is Admiral Marcus Torres of the United Earth Defense Force. For 200 years, humanity has lived peacefully under the protection of 3 great empires. We have paid our tribute, followed the laws, and caused no trouble." He paused for effect. "Today, those empires chose to attack our colonies and enslave our people. They believed we were too weak to defend ourselves. They were wrong." Torres gestured to the display screens around the bridge, which showed images of the 7 planet ships in all their terrible glory. For 40 years, humanity has been preparing for this day. We built these ships not to conquer, but to protect. Not to rule, but to liberate. To the leaders of the 3 empires, I offer this choice. You have 36 hours to withdraw all military forces from human space and surrender unconditionally. In return, we will show mercy to your people and help you build a better galaxy." Torres's expression became cold. "If you refuse, we will demonstrate why it was a mistake to threaten humanity. Choose wisely." The transmission ended, and the galaxy fell silent. On 1,000 worlds, trillions of beings tried to understand what they had just witnessed. The weak, harmless humans had revealed themselves to possess weapons that made empire fleets look like children's toys, but the empires had ruled for thousands of years. They were proud and arrogant, and they believed that no single species could challenge their combined might. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Supreme Commander Veltar of the Zethkari hegemony had never felt fear in his 3,000 years of life. But as he looked at the tactical display showing 15,000 Empire warships converging on the Sol system, He felt something close to it. Not fear of the humans, but fear of what failure would mean for his reputation. The three empires had done something unprecedented. They had combined their fleets into a single armada larger than anything in galactic history. Sethkari crystal ships flew alongside Vorthic biovessels and Luxarian energy constructs. Ancient enemies working together for the first time in millennia. Surely 7 ships cannot stand against this force, Veltar said to his tactical officer. No matter how large they are. The tactical officer, a crystalline being whose body sparkled with nervous energy, pointed to the display. The quantum readings from their weapons suggest incredible power, Supreme Commander. But you are right. Numbers must count for something. The assembled fleet was truly massive. 5,000 Sethkari warships, each one a glittering jewel of destruction. 4,000 Vorthic bioships, living vessels that could adapt and evolve in real time. 6,000 Luxarian energy constructs, pure light given form and purpose. It was the largest military force ever assembled. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the USS Americas and watched the enemy fleet approach through long-range sensors. The Americas hung in space near Earth's moon, its massive bulk making the natural satellite look like a tiny pebble. Around it, the other 6 planet ships had taken positions throughout the solar system. Enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 30 minutes, reported Commander Sarah Kim, Torres' tactical officer. Any response to our surrender demand? Torres asked. Supreme Commander Veltar sent a reply, sir. He said that humans will learn to serve better masters after this demonstration. Torres nodded. He had expected this response. The empires had ruled through fear and superior firepower for so long that they could not imagine any other outcome. They saw 7 ships facing 15,000 and assumed it. Mathematics was obvious. They did not understand that mathematics changed when the 7 ships were each the size of worlds. Signal all planet ships, Torres ordered. Begin battle formation Omega. Let them see what they are really facing. Throughout the solar system, the 7 planet ships began to move. What the Empire fleet had thought were fixed defensive positions suddenly revealed themselves to be mobile weapons of unimaginable power. The ships moved with impossible grace for objects so massive. Their quantum engines manipulating space itself to achieve speeds that defied physics. The USS Europe suddenly appeared directly in front of the advancing Empire fleet, having jumped 3 light years in an instant. The USS Asia materialized on the fleet's flank. The USS Antarctica took position above them, while the USS Australia emerged from behind the sun. Supreme Commander Veltar watched in growing alarm as his tactical display updated. What had been a simple assault on a single star system had become a 3-dimensional nightmare. The human ships had surrounded his fleet and were moving to attack positions faster than his sensors could track. All ships, attack formation Delta, he ordered. Focus all fire on the nearest human vessel. The Empire fleet split into battle groups and charged toward the USS Europe. 5,000 ships concentrating their fire on a single target should have been overwhelming, even against something the size of a planet. Captain Elena Rodriguez commanded the Europe from her position in the ship's central command center. Around her, holographic displays showed the approaching Empire fleet in perfect detail. She could see individual weapon systems charging on enemy ships light years away. Shields at maximum, she ordered. All weapon systems online. Begin evasive maneuvers. The Europe began to move, dodging and weaving through space like a dancer despite its enormous size. Empire weapons fired from thousands of ships, creating a light show that could be seen from neighboring star systems. Crystal beams, bioplasma, and pure energy struck the planet ship's shields. The shields held without even fluctuating. Impossible. Supreme Commander Veltar whispered as his most powerful weapons failed to even scratch the human ship's defenses. Nothing can absorb that much energy. But he was still thinking in terms of conventional technology. The Europe shields were not absorbing the energy. They were redirecting it into quantum dimensions where it could be safely dispersed. The ship could have withstood the combined fire of 1,000,000 Empire vessels without taking damage. "Return fire," Captain Rodriguez ordered. "Show them what real weapons look like." The Europe's main guns opened fire. These were not the limited power demonstrations used during the first skirmishes. These were full-power quantum disruptors designed to crack planets. Beams of pure destruction lanced out from the planet ship and swept across the Empire formation. Where the beams touched Empire ships, those vessels simply stopped existing. No explosions, no debris fields. The quantum energy converted matter directly into harmless radiation, leaving nothing behind but expanding clouds of light dot in the first minute of full combat. The Europe destroyed over 800 Empire warships. The other planet ships joined the battle moments later. The USS Asia demonstrated humanity's most terrifying weapon, quantum-tunneled artillery that could strike targets in completely different star systems. While fighting the Luxarian energy beings near Jupiter, the Asia simultaneously opened fire on Vorthic reinforcements 3 light-years away. The USS Antarctica revealed another human innovation, temporal displacement weapons. Enemy ships hit by these weapons did not just die. They were removed from the timeline itself, erasing their existence so completely that the universe forgot they had ever been built. Supreme Commander Veltar watched his mighty fleet disappear like smoke. Ships that had taken decades to construct and centuries to perfect were being destroyed faster than his computers could track. The humans were not just winning the battle. They were redefining what battle meant. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Emergency jump, scatter formation." But it was too late for retreat. The planet ships had positioned themselves perfectly. As Empire vessels tried to flee, they found human warships waiting for them at every exit point. The USS Australia had somehow predicted every possible escape route and blocked them all. The battle lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. When it was over, the greatest fleet in galactic history had been reduced to scattered debris and fading energy signatures. Of the 15,000 Empire warships that had entered the Sol system, fewer than 100 survived to carry news of the defeat back to their home worlds. On the bridge of the Americas, Admiral Torres received reports from all 7 planet ships. Total human casualties, 0. Total Empire ships destroyed, 14,903. Several Empire commanders had surrendered and were being held in comfortable detention aboard the planet ships. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender broadcasts from Empire worlds throughout the galaxy. The Zethkari homeworld has just announced unconditional surrender. The Vorthic Collective is requesting negotiation terms. The Luxarian Dominion." The officer paused. "The Luxarian Dominion is asking if they can join the human fleet as allies." Torres looked out at the debris field that had once been the most powerful military force in galactic history. He felt no satisfaction in the victory. Millions of beings had died today, even if they had been trying to enslave humanity when they died. "Open a general broadcast to all Empire territories," he ordered. When the channel was active, Torres addressed the galaxy once again. "People of the 3 empires, your fleets came to our system to demonstrate your superior power. Instead, they have demonstrated why humanity spent 40 years preparing for this day. Your government sent these fleets because they believed might makes right. They believed the strong should rule the weak. Today, they learned they were not as strong as they thought." Torres paused, looking directly into the camera. But humanity does not believe that might makes right. We believe that power should be used to protect, not to conquer. Your worlds will not be enslaved. Your people will not be harmed. Your cultures will not be destroyed. Tomorrow, we will begin building a new kind of galaxy. One where no species rules over another. Where strength is used to defend the weak, not oppress them. Where the old empires that brought only fear and suffering are replaced by something better. We invite you to join us in this work. The age of empires is over. The age of cooperation begins now. The transmission ended, and across the galaxy, trillions of beings tried to understand what they had just witnessed. 3 ancient empires that had ruled for millennia had fallen in a single afternoon. Not to another empire, but to a species most of them had never heard of. A species that now possessed the power to rule them all, but claimed it wanted to free them instead. Captain Lisa Jiang, watching from the bridge of the USS Eurasia, spoke for many humans when she said quietly, "Now comes the hard part. Winning a war is easy compared to building a peace." Admiral Torres heard her through the communication link and nodded. The planet ships had proven that humanity could destroy empires overnight. Now they would have to prove they could build something better to replace them. The real test was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, former Supreme Commander Veltar of the Zethkari hegemony sat in a comfortable chair in the diplomatic quarters of the USS Americas. Through the massive windows, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue and white jewel. It was strange to think that this small planet had produced the beings who had ended 3,000 years of empire rule in a single afternoon. Across from him sat Admiral Torres, the human who had commanded the planet ship fleet during the battle. Torres looked tired, but not from fighting. The war had lasted less than a day. The peace was proving much more difficult to build. "You wanted to speak with me about the transition process," Torres said. "What is troubling you, Veltar?" The former Supreme Commander's crystalline body flickered with confused colors. In Zethkari culture, body coloration showed emotional states. Right now, Veltar was displaying a mixture of gratitude, confusion, and deep uncertainty. "Admiral, I have been trying to understand your people for 6 months now. I have studied your history, your culture, your decision-making processes, and I am more confused than when I started." Torres smiled. "What confuses you?" "Everything," Veltar said. "Your people possess the most powerful military force in galactic history. You defeated 3 empires in hours. You could rule every inhabited world in the galaxy. Instead, you are giving worlds their freedom and asking if you can help them build better societies. And this confuses you because..." Veltar's colors shifted to deep blue, indicating profound puzzlement. "Because that is not how power works. Power exists to be used. The strong rule the weak. This has been the way of things for thousands of years." Through the window, they could see one of the planet ships moving slowly past. Earth, the USS Europe, was heading out to the former Zethkari territories to begin what humans called liberation. Assistance. It would help former empire worlds transition to self-governance while protecting them from raiders and opportunists. "Tell me, Veltar," Torres said, "in your 3,000 years of life, did the old way of doing things make you happy?" The question seemed to surprise the crystalline being. His colors flickered rapidly as he processed the concept. "Happy? Supreme Commanders are not expected to be happy. We are expected to be efficient, to maintain order, to ensure the hegemony's dominance. But did you enjoy your life? Did you look forward to each new day? Did you feel pride in what you accomplished?" Veltar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his colors had shifted to a soft gray that Torres had learned indicated sadness. "No, I spent every day maintaining a system that required constant vigilance and constant cruelty. I ordered the destruction of worlds that resisted. I enslaved species that could not defend themselves. I did these things because they were necessary to maintain order. And now? Now I spend my days helping former hegemony worlds establish their own governments. I teach them about resource management and interstellar trade. I watch them make choices for themselves instead of following orders. Veltar's colors brighten to warm yellow. It is satisfying in a way I had never experienced before. This conversation was happening throughout the former Empire territories. On hundreds of worlds, former Empire officials were working alongside human advisors to build new forms of government. The results were sometimes chaotic, often messy, but consistently hopeful. Dr. Sarah Chun stood in the observation deck of a space station orbiting New Geneva, the first human colony to be attacked by the empires. Below her, the planet was busier than it had ever been. Ships from dozens of former Empire species were arriving daily, carrying refugees, traders, and diplomats. New Geneva had become a symbol of the new galaxy, a place where former enemies worked together. Dr. Chun, a voice said behind her. She turned to see Captain Elena Rodriguez, the officer who had originally reported the Empire fleet movements that started everything. Rodriguez now served as the human liaison to the New Geneva Cooperation Council. Captain, Sarah said, how are the integration talks going? Better than expected. The Vorthik delegation just agreed to share their bioship technology for medical applications. The Luxarian energy beings want to help us develop better power systems for colonies on low-energy worlds. Even some of the Zethkari crystal workers are interested in helping us build more beautiful cities. Sarah nodded. This was happening everywhere the planet ships went. Instead of ruling through fear, humans were discovering that most species actually wanted to cooperate when given the chance. The empires had maintained control by keeping their subject species isolated and suspicious of each other. When humans brought them together and encouraged collaboration, amazing things began to happen. Any word from Earth about Project Atlas? Rodriguez asked. Sarah smiled. Project Atlas was humanity's next great endeavor. With the galaxy stabilized, human scientists were beginning to design mobile star systems that could travel to other galaxies. The goal was to make contact with civilizations beyond the Milky Way and share what they had learned about building cooperative societies. The preliminary designs are approved, Sarah said. Construction should begin within the year. But this time, we are not keeping it secret. Anyone who wants to contribute to the project is welcome. On Earth, President Alexander Petrov was preparing for another galactic address. Through the windows of his office, he could see the construction site where the 8th planet ship was being built. Unlike the original 7 ships, this one was being constructed openly with help from dozens of species. It would be called Unity and would serve as a mobile diplomatic center for the new Galactic Federation. Mr. President, his aide said, the broadcast is ready. All Federation worlds are standing by to receive your message. Petrov nodded and walked to the camera. Behind him, a holographic display showed the current state of the galaxy. Where once there had been 3 great empires ruling over hundreds of fearful subject species, now there was a loose confederation of autonomous worlds working together by choice. Citizens of the Galactic Federation, Petrov began. 6 months ago, humanity revealed itself as a military power. Today, I want to talk about our true strength. Our true strength was never our planet ships or our quantum weapons. Our true strength is our ability to see former enemies as potential friends, to see conquered peoples as equals deserving freedom, to see problems as opportunities for cooperation rather than domination. The old empires ruled through fear because they believed that was the only way to maintain order. They were wrong. Order built on fear is always temporary. Order built on mutual benefit and shared goals can last forever. The Trov gestured to a display showing Federation worlds. Today, former Zethkari colonies are trading freely with former Vorthic territories. Luxarian energy beings are working with human engineers to develop cleaner power sources. Species that were enemies for centuries are discovering they have more in common than they ever imagined. This is not the end of conflict in the galaxy. There will still be problems to solve and challenges to face. But now we will face them together as equals, instead of as masters and servants. To those who still doubt whether this new system can work, I offer this challenge. Try it. Send representatives to the Federation Council. Participate in joint research projects. Open trade with your former enemies. See for yourself whether cooperation produces better results than conquest. The broadcast ended, and across the galaxy, beings of hundreds of different species listened to the human president's words. Many were skeptical. Some were afraid. But more and more were beginning to hope. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the USS Americas as it prepared to depart for humanity's next mission. The ship would travel to the edge of the galaxy to investigate signals that might indicate other civilizations beyond their local group of stars. Navigation, he said to his helmsman. Set course for the Magellanic Clouds. Time to see what our neighbors think of us. As the massive planet ship began to move, Torres reflected on how much had changed since the day Elena Vasquez had first reported Empire fleet movements. Humanity had spent 40 years preparing for war, but only 4 hours fighting it. They had spent 6 months learning how to build peace. And that work would continue for generations to come. The empires had fallen overnight. But building something better to replace them was proving to be a much longer task. Fortunately, humans had learned that some things were worth taking the time to do right. Behind them, the new Galactic Federation continued its work. Former Empire worlds learned self-governance. Ancient enemies became trading partners. Billions of beings discovered what it meant to live without fear of conquest or oppression. And in the secret research facilities where the planet ships had been built, human scientists were already working on their next project, faster-than-light communication systems that could connect entire galaxies, making cooperation possible on a scale never before imagined. The galaxy had learned that humanity's true strength was not their ability to destroy empires overnight. It was their ability to imagine something better and then work together to build it. As the USS Americas disappeared into hyperspace, heading toward unknown civilizations in distant galaxies, its crew carried a simple message, the same one humanity wished they had received when they first entered the galactic community.